Tithes, and this is Ukraine Iceberg Chart. So, let's go! Sometimes I will switch to Ukrainian because it will be more appropriate in some moments. Besides, it's my native language. Beautiful girls. It's all about genetics and mentality, also its ability to various cosmetology, services, and salons. Nationalism. In short, Ukrainian nationalism consists in preserving one's own territories, which are enshrined in law and language, also in history, culture, science, and similar aspects. Cossacks. This topic can be talked about for a long time. Still, their influence can be found in Ukrainian last names, animation on 5 and 10 hryvnias, Ukrainian literature, and Byron's poem called Mazepa, even on the same matches from S.T.A.L.K.E.R, also in almost everything Ukrainian. War with Russia. The whole war in Ukraine began with the Russia occupying Crimea and Donbass in 2014. I can say that it was a shock for me, especially regarding Crimea and Mariupol. Fortunately, by the time the armed forces of Ukraine had returned to Mariupol to Ukraine, even the schools I attend helped for the armed forces of Ukraine. There were quite active hostilities only in the east of Ukraine until 24th of February in 2022. Now, I can safely describe my own events and emotions on 23rd of February of that year. Still, it can be described as a normal day for a high school student despite the fact that I studied online. In terms of the fact, there were lessons like physics, history, literature. Then I decided to do my own hobbies and play games for a while. I also got a little stuck on social media. It all ended like the most normal February day. I thought that the next day would be the same. Then I was partly nonchalant because I heard that the full-scale war would begin after 20th of February in 2022. 24th of February in 2022. I woke up from an air raid. Unlike other people who were in Ukraine at that time, had approximately the same emotions, fear and anxiety that dominate the ones. So the very first days of full-scale war had to spent in hiding. I even managed to find friends with whom I managed to watch one cartoon until midnight. It was during the air raid. A little about the first months. In principle, these were one of the most difficult moments in my life. I tried to switch to lessons and games. This despite the fact that it was physically difficult for me because of the air raids. I was also upset by the fact that Mariupol was occupied again. All because that I planned to go there at least for the summer holidays. If we talk about the present, the wall is still there. Currently, one of the main problems that some freaks still listen and watch Russian-produced content. S.T.A.L.K.E.R was made here. Yes, this game was created in Ukraine, especially in Kyiv. For this fact, I'm not ashamed to talk about my hometown. Also about the fictional build number 666, which I mentioned in one of my videos about Ukrainian lost media. briefly about the series of the games. Entire plot takes place in Chernobyl. The main character who was called Market because of his duel with the name of this game. The game itself is from the first person. There are quite a few battles, tasks, and anomalies. They also didn't not forget yet about the real locations and things. Due to the release of the second part in Ukraine, there were problems with communication apparatus because of the long-awaited release. Censorship. Yes, this is the city where the plot of S.T.A.L.K.E.R took place. Now we'll move on to the real city. It's the first mention was back in 1193. This was during the time of Kyiv and Arthas. It became famous all over the world because on the 26th of April in 1986, the most massive nuclear explosion occurred at the first power unit of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The Soviet Union was in no hurry to talk about the tragedy. They started talking about after pressure from a number of European countries that were not under communist rule, all because of cloud with radiation content. This explosion created an alloy called the elephant food. Those who took pictures and were nuclear this information are no longer among the living. Although because of high radiation content, there are a few pictures that still exist. A little about what is happening with Chernobyl in the 21st century. He became popular because of the release of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, later built sarcophagus for force unit. Till Lindemann was also in the city. There's in a video where he sits on the Sphinx. I haven't forgotten that Israel made a series about Chernobyl. It caused a scandal in Ukraine because there are still living witnesses to this event. From February 24 to 2nd of April in 2022, it was occupied by Russians and riots. Fortunately, the armed forces of Ukraine liberated the city. Then those Russians put in sarcophagus, and because of this, the radiation level increased. It was 13th of February in 2025. Unfortunately, the IAEA did not track it anyway. Random fact, Mr. Babinski's medal from the Cartoon Colline has a medal for investigating the fire at the first unit. Yes, I know that his name was not that in this book. Current president was a comedian. Volodymyr Zelensky was a real comedian in Culture 95. I won't go into details about how he played the piano. You can find out how it all happened. It all interesting that he can even be found as a narrator and cameo in fairy tale Ross. At the time, the audience didn't even know that absolutely all presidents of Ukraine in 2025 would be there. Between filming, he managed to voice Paddington in the first two films with Ukrainian dubbing. Yes, this is a little about what the president did. Verdansk map is based on Donetsk. This fictional city is based on Donetsk because there's the Donetsk area, Donetsk airport, and some places that make this clear. Ukraine has won 3 times, namely in 2004, 2016, and 2022. In 2005 and 2017, it was held peacefully in Ukraine, but in 2023, due to the war, it took place in the United Kingdom. There is a question for viewers. Who was at Eurovision in 2023 and how are your emotions? Also, there's a famous performance from 2007. I'm talking about Lyashko by Zaporizka Sich. Zaporizka Sich. There were mostly Cossacks there, about whom I told a little. They located in the territory of Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions. Moreover, there are not one or two of them, but as many as 8, namely Хотинська, Томаківська, Базалуцька, Микитинська, Чортомлинська, Кам'янська, Олешківська, and Підпільницька. Helicopter invention. For each year following Leonardo da Vinci's idea, Igor Sikorsky built a helicopter in 1939. It was the VS-300. Maidan riots. Briefly about all the most famous revolutions that took place on the Independence Square. First, the revolution began in 1990. It was intended for Ukraine to restore independence. As a result, on the 21st of August in 1991, Ukraine restored independence. Second, Orange Revolution, which took place in 2004. In this revolution, people were rightly dissatisfied with falsification of the elections. In the end, Viktor Yushchenko won the president election. Third, Revolution of Dignity, which took place in 2013-2014. One of the reasons was the refusal of European integration in Ukraine. Fortunately, Ukrainians understood this. As a result, Yanukovych was overthrown, but conquests in the form of the Heavenly Hundred and the war in Ukraine. All these Maidans were for Ukraine to be independent from Russia and mentally closer to Europe. Anthem is lit. The national anthem of Ukraine, Ще не вмерла Україна, слава і воля, is an essence, a powerful and deeply meaningful work. It was officially adopted the musical version on 15th of January in 1992, and the current official text was adopted on 6th of March in 1903. The words were written by Pavlo Chubinsky in the 1860s, and the music was written by Mikhailo Verbnitsky. The anthem reflects the historical background of the Ukrainian nation, emphasizing its glory, courage, and unwavering spirit in the face of various historical adventures. It is a symbol of national unity and testament to the country's relentless struggle for freedom and independence. Its resonance has only grown, especially recently, as it performed around the world solidarity with Ukraine. Kyiv left coast versus right coast wars. All these wars in Kyiv at different moments, all due to a large list of reasons. For example, the right bank of Kyiv is slightly higher than left. This felt when you near the Dnieper itself. Also, these wars are formed due to a number of different stereotypes. Second, the World War victims. I will be blunt. With or without calculation, there is a fairly large number of victims, both from military and civilian. That's approximately from 8 to 10 million people. Church of the Tithes was destroyed multiple times. The Tithes church in Kyiv, located on the territory of the Kyiv Church Clara, has been destroyed several times. Originally built in the late 10th century, it was significantly damaged during the Mongol investigation of 2040. It was later rebuilt in the 19th century, but this rebuilt structure was then dismantled by the Soviet authorities in 1935. Fortunately, it has been restored and you can visit it. After that, it ended up on the reverse of the Gremlin's banknote. Country emblem is an anagram for Voля. You can understand from the picture where it says Voля. The interpretation is one of the many common opinions about the meaning of trident and acquired special symbols meaning for Ukrainians because Voля or freedom is one of the key values of Ukrainian people and consists aspiration. Holodomor. There were 3 Holodomors in Ukraine. The first was in 1921-1922. It was caused by Bolshevik policy, war, and land degradation due to their previous cause. The second was in 1932-1933. This was in fact an artificial famine. In fact, there was something similar in Kazakhstan, but here I will talk about Ukraine. All because this Holodomor was to exterminate Ukrainians in the first place. Even all possible diasporas in Ukraine at that time. The third was in 1936-1937. This Holodomor was caused by World War II and resulted in a shortage of labor, livestock, and equipment. As a bonus, the communist authorities also repeatedly regarding this topic in today's Ukraine, all 3 Holodomors have been recognized as genocide. This topic is even taught in Ukrainian schools during history lessons. It can be even taught as a separate topic in Ukrainian academies and universities for artists and graphic and motion designers. Verdansk map is based on Donetsk. Decommunization. Unfortunately, it's about Victoria Rushna, who has beheaded by Russians. All because she was reporting from Russian-occupied territory when she disappeared in August 2023. So, y'all understood what happened to her before the death. Ukrainian literature is too dramatic. There are quite dramatic works in Ukrainian literature. Here you need to understand the historical background and the desire for independence. Also, if necessary, you can find non-dramatic literature by Ukrainian authors for different age groups, genres, and level of censorship. They can be from different years. The main thing is to be able to search independently, or simply recommendations can be given you by memes with quotes from certain Ukrainian works. Bridges in Kyiv. There are over 8 bridges across the Dnieper in Kyiv. If we talk about the bridges in Kyiv, there are over 60 of them. There are memes about Kyiv bridges. Some of them can take a long time to build. Oleg Lyashko. He is a Ukrainian politician and former People's Party of Ukraine. But he also famous the following memes.
Ми маємо кабельну мережу локально в Торонто, то ми орендуємо час в...
Я читав «Українська діаспора».
Сьогодні ми у гостях у людини, яка наважилася офіційно представляти інтереси сексуальних меншинств у Верховній Раді.
Одну хвилинку, не зрозумів.
Ну що?
Що ви смієтеся?
Ні, я серйозно.
Хто сказав, що я офіційно представляю їхні інтереси?
Ну, мені так сказали про вас.
Та це дурня повна, ви що? Смієтеся? Це спеціально мої опоненти розповсюджують дурню всяку.
Це мій друг сказав?
Ну я вам кажу, що пошліть ви свого друга подалі.
Чекайте, я йому зараз позвоню.
Ну дайте мені вашого друга. Я з ним поговорю.
Вибачте, будь ласка. Остапе.
Дайте, я йому поговорю.
Зараз я йому дам трубку.
Остап, доброго дня. Я Олег Lyashko, народний депутат України. От мені Майкл каже, що ви сказали, що я перша людина, яка представляє сексуальні меншини в парламенті. Ви підіграєте моїм політичним опонентам. Я не маю нічого проти сексуальних меншин. У мене дружина, у мене дитина. Оце завдяки таким подонкам, як ви, і розповсюджують цю брехню. Очевидно, в тебе є з цим проблеми якісь, так? Може, ти хочеш представляти ці меншини в парламенті? Остап, я тебе знайду, я наб'ю тобі морду. До побачення.
Я прошу вибачення.
Це політична провокація.
Ми можемо продовжити про це говорити.
Звичайно,
Для чого це комусь потрібно? Це дуже є низько. Це є страшно низько так
бачите,
робити.
Мені приємно, що ви це розумієте. Більшість українських громадян доволі негативно ставиться до одностатевих стосунків. І тому, коли їм немає більше про що сказати, от вони беруть на рівному місці, придумують брехню всяку. І бачите, навіть ви, досвідчений журналіст, купилися на цю брехню. Що вже казати за людей простих, які не такі професійні, як ви? Яку їсти можна, на хліб намазувати і їсти замість чорної ікри і масла.
Після закінчення пленарного засідання Верховної Ради головний радикал пішов на засідання комітету. По дорозі Олег Валерійович разом з однопартійцями Віктором Вовком і Григорієм Пригебою застряг у ліфті будівлі. Порятунку довелося чекати більше 20 хвилин. Тож поки чекали, записали відео, яке депутат виклав на своїй сторінці в Фейсбуці.
Це Ляшко, доброго дня. А ми в ліфті застряли. Як хорошо? Все ж він каже, ну й хорошо. 10-15 хвилин посидіти треба в ліфті. А повітря вистачить на 15 хвилин? Хорошо, окей, сідаємо, тоді чекаємо. Менше дихати, повітря мало. Якщо ми сидимо 15 хвилин...
This is a brief summary of how he became popular as meme. The Russian language policy. In Ukraine, there is a policy of strengthening the role of the Ukrainian language as a state language, which has led to some restriction on the use of the Russian language in public life. However, it does not lead to complete ban. This policy is aimed at promoting Ukrainian national identity and is conceived by some to be necessary for national security. Also, there are concerns about the impact on linguistic minorities. This policy does not prohibit the use of Russian in private communication or religious ceremonies. This means that it is forbidden to speak Russian in service and public spaces. However, other languages are recently allowed. Arthas or Papich. Papich, also known as Arthas, Papich, or also known as Arthas, is a popular Ukrainian streamer and commentator who gained fame for his Dota broadcast. He is known for his controversial and provocate style of streaming and has a large audience. In addition to Dota, he also commenting on other games at the major tournaments. He recently moved from Ukraine to Dubai, where he says he works for a Russian bookmaker. Memes, degradation, and morality. Moral degradation in Ukrainian humor began on 24th of February in 2022. Although the impact of full-scale war, there are also some pretty outrageous jokes at the time. Censorship. Ukraine prohibits censorship. According to the Constitution of Ukraine, as well as other laws, any interference with freedom of speech and expression is prohibited. In addition, is the creation of bodies or position and that would have the purpose of censorship. Mass information is prohibited. The prohibition of censorship in Ukraine is enshrined in Article 15 of the Constitution, which guarded the freedom of speech through and information, and also prohibits censorship. This means that the state cannot control and restrict information distributed in the media, the internet, or other means of mass communication. Despite all this prohibition, discussion sometimes arise about possible restriction on freedom of speech in the context of national security or fight against disinformation, especially during the wartime. However, such restriction must be clearly defined by law and cannot take the form of general censorship. It's worth nothing the fact that there were periods in history of Ukraine when censorship exists. For example, during the Russian Empire or during Soviet times. However, modern Ukraine, as a democratic state, strives to ensure freedom of speech and information for its citizens. A little about censorship during the martial law. It's forbidden to photograph and publish military personnel, equipment, missile and strike sites. In addition, the country has introduced a ban on the number of institutions, buildings of original and councils and similar moments. Kids around Gulliver superstore. By all children, but by age teenagers still. Those teenagers who found a grocery store and in Gulliver and drink alcohol there, all because they want to show they're cool and so also to blend in socially. This despite the fact that alcohol is only solid form at the age of 18, I condemn their actions such as these things. Fortunately, I didn't notice this because the fact this is just my upbringing. Therefore, it's also simply a non-natural desire to drink alcohol, despite the fact that I'm now 20 years old. I was even able to make my social circle such as it does not do this. Fortunately, I knew about the alternative options for finding friends and meeting them.
Життя цікаве. І мотивація то є сильна. Філософія, психологія. Саме головне залишайтеся людьми і кричіть, що ви живі. Я живий! Я сильний! Я мотиватор! Нехай світ почує всі мої текста. Голос мій іде вперед. Я пацан села. Я топовий, я пацан. Ніхто не повірив в мене. Передайте від мене таке послання. Тепер ми починаємо готуватися. Ми починаємо біти, підготовка текстів на вивчати. Не буду спати, буду все піднімати. А хто в мене і не вірив, я буду на вас кричати. Звір!
He's fairly well known as a rapper and motivator. In short, he became famous through the first and second, but also through Ukraine's Got Talent. Ilya Kiva. This persona non grata was a pro-Russian Ukrainian politician. He also became the character of this meme.
Маленький гвинтик! Я маленький гвинтик!
It can be assumed that he was justly killed. IKEA used Carpathian woods. IKEA used wood from the Carpathian forest of Ukraine in some of its products, including chairs. This was despite the fact that the wood was illegally locked. Kharkiv Pact is still in change. The Kharkiv Pact, an agreement between Ukraine and Russia regarding the presence of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, is no longer an fact. It was formally terminated by Ukraine in 2014 following Russia's annexation of Crimea. The agreement has been a source of controversy due to implication for Ukrainian sovereignty and its connection to Russia gas discounts. What is the Kharkiv Pact? The Kharkiv Pact, officially known as the agreement between Ukraine and Russia on the Black Sea Fleet in Ukraine, was signed in 2010. It extended Russia's leave of naval facilities in Crimea beyond 2017 until 2042 in exchange for a discount on Russian natural gas. Why is so conversational? Most conclusions Ukrainians at that time viewed the agreement as a concession to Russia that threatened their sovereignty and territorial integrity. The pact was seen as a strategic advantage for Russia, potentially opening the way for further invasions of Ukraine's territory. This is literal translation of popular English sounds and wrote opening into Ukrainian. The link to listen is in the link below this video. This penalty currently exists in Ukraine. In fact, these are rumors. From a legal point of view, the death penalty was banned in Ukraine in 2000, all because of the desire not to be like Russia. Even if you pay attention to true crime stories from Ukraine after 2000 year, you can understand that this has not been practiced for the last 25 years. Ігор on Kyiv. This program was on Kyiv. It talked about and announced games. At the same time, it partly found the footage program of the TV channel which was closed in September 2017. Kuchmagate. In general, Kuchmagate is a phenomenon is called with Melchenko tapes and the Gongates murder. It was also led to strike called Kuchmagate. You can listen and accept from Milichenko tapes in the first part of the Ukrainian lost media iceberg on my channel. I will leave the link in the description under this video. Secret Russia-Ukraine threats during the war. If it's too short, then some business did not care about their reputation during the war. All because they remember that they had proven themselves well to customers. In principle, there are people and the media who make public announcements on this topic. They that journalist. Unfortunately, it's about Victoria Rushna, who has beheaded by Russians. All because she was reporting from Russian-occupied territory when she disappeared in August 2023. So, y'all understood what happened to her before the death. Arsenal metro station is not the deepest. Was the deepest metro station until 2022. All because Honkai station. This is despite the fact that Arsenal is still the deepest metro station in Kyiv and Europe. Ancient Ukrainians created the Black Sea, all dirt and rocks they dug up became Caucasian mountains. This is Russian propaganda. Ukraine controls Joe Biden by holding Hunter as a hostage. This is also Russian propaganda. In fact, the statement that nothing changes in Ukraine is not 100% accurate. The country is constantly changing due to war, with constant military operations, humanitarian crisis, and significant economics and social conquests. While the desire for stability is strong, the path to it remains uncertain and difficult. Also, according to the laws of Ukraine, it is clear that some changes are taking place there. So, this video is going to end. Don't forget about to like, subscribe, and Putin will